Hi YouTube, welcome to Roxania Speaks. I'm Roxania, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Melissa. And today we're going to be talking about migrating to Canada. Yes, Melissa is all the way from Canada. But before we continue, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to leave a comment down below. So, as I said before, Melissa is with us all the way from Canada. Yes, a lot of persons would have been thinking about, going to Canada to start a new life or to seek better opportunities. But we're going to be hearing from the horse's mouth herself. She would have experienced the transition. And so I'm going to ask Melissa to tell us really and truly the real truth about living in Canada, the process, some things that persons may not want to tell us, but we're going to speak today. So, Melissa, when you realized that you were going to live in a new country, a big country at that, Canada, what were your thoughts?
Uh, the thoughts were no family, no friends, lifestyle difference. Because if you don't have no family, no friend, you can go out, you can do certain things, different environment. You don't know if the culture, especially like work environment, how different it is versus in Jamaica.
Trying to get
A lot.
to live over there.
Yeah.
So besides the social part, how did you feel otherwise, opportunity that you now have to live there?
I'm kind of excited for something different. And as I say, just thinking about that it's going to be you alone and how would you function? How you're going to get about, how you're going to integrate, how hard it is going to be integrate because I never had traveling experience before. Never
Okay.
went to US, never did anything like that before. So I don't know what it is like to leave Jamaica and be in a different environment.
So when you knew you were going, in terms of the paperwork, that part of it to get over there, was it difficult to sort out, what they asked you to prepare? How was that part of it, the documentation?
It wasn't, I wouldn't say it's difficult, it's just that they ask for a lot. They
Mm-hmm.
ask for everything. Your background, you're basically doing a whole background check of you. They ask for work, school, your life, your family. They ask for everything. It's not just a paperwork for you as an individual. It's a paperwork
Mm-hmm.
to get a full detail of who them letting in the country. It's not like US where you just go and answer about 5 questions and then decide
Mm-hmm.
yes or no. They actually don't talk to you none at all. You don't have a sit down conversation with anybody from the Canadian embassy. They ask you all the questions, you fill out the
Mm-hmm.
forms, you turn them in and they review it.
Okay, I thought it was just for persons who were visiting. I never knew the same thing applies for persons who were
Same,
going to live there.
you just fill out papers and if they need questions answered, they'll ask the questions. They'll send out emails or send you back actually. I said they send you back the forms that you sent before
Mm-hmm.
and they attach any questions that additional questions that they have and you do that and you send back in the whole paperwork.
All right. How difficult would you say that compared to any processes in Jamaica? I know you say you've never been to another country to compare it to in terms of a US and their process or anything, but within that process, how difficult would you say it was between a
Consuming. I think it's
okay.
just time consuming mostly because the back and forth in anything that they need to verify,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, yeah, that's just the thing with it. It just takes a lot of time because they, like I said, they do a whole background check, and if your story is not look like they're adding up,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, so they put it to that a rigorous process basically.
And how long
So
was that process?
for me, that process was probably about 3 to 2 to 3 years probably.
2 to 3
with a lot of,
years.
but
Wow.
yeah, it was yeah, a whole heap of back and forth and stuff for that period of time. But no, right
Mm.
after I completed the process, they brought in an express system that takes about 1 year now.
Okay, okay.
So it's
Good.
not as rigorous as it was back then.
All right. So you mentioned, Melissa, that is where you are compared to the other places or the other provinces. The place kind of boring.
Hmm.
But in terms of the food and some people don't go out a lot where you are.
Not really, especially because like all winter long. Winter is not like US. The degrees get bad.
Mm-hmm.
The snow on a normal. And a good winter you might get ankle height snow. And a really bad one you step down and all the knee touch. so,
Mm-mm.
so nobody know, and the roads not comfortable to drive on. Like I said, compared to what I've heard about Toronto shovel the snow, prepare the roads and the sidewalks and stuff ahead of hearing about a storm, snowstorm or any form of snowfall. Here are outskirts, um, cities like I'm in. They're not so much as, what do I call it, accommodating, or I'm not sure if that would have been the right word for it, as unprepared stuff like
So you would have to do
Toronto.
it yourself
So
as citizens. You would have to go out there and prepare the in front of
actually, you
your
have
place or
to,
so.
if you live in a house, you have to shovel your all the sidewalk area that covers in front of your house. You
Mm.
have to shovel your driveway and you walk up to your house, because if the mailman or any other service worker falls there, they can sue you. You have to shovel it. If you live on a corner lot, you have to shovel from the corner, the side of your house, come right around, or else if the government passes and see it, you're going to get a fine. They give you a warning to get it clean up. They come back to check and they give you a fine for it. You have to cut it. When the summer comes, you have to make sure your grass cut and sort out. It has to be maintained. So when you have a house, it's different. You live in an apartment, the apartment covers all of that. But like the streets itself,
Mm-hmm.
you can't do nothing about the streets. So unless like other persons, you have persons that own like, the open back vans.
Mm-hmm.
They put like little shovels that attach them to the front of the trucks. So when they're driving, it's clearing a pathway for them.
Right.
And you have other persons that will get winter tires, they get studded tires, they get
Mm-hmm.
put chains on the tires to make it easier to drive during the winter, because they really don't provide anything. If you're a walker, you have to get studs to your shoes, or else
You
you're liable
fall.
to slide on the ice,
Mm-hmm.
because when the heat, the sun, even though you're not feeling the rays of it still melts the ice and then it turns it into glass. You're not seeing it. To you, is a clear part. You step, you drop. When you have the studs on now, it steps into the ice. It creates a grip for you than the breaking.
I
So it
love how you
come
bring up that, Minister, because you were there good Jamaica. We don't have no snow, and it's your first time going. Were you there in the winter? Did you go in the winter?
no, I came in August. Girl,
So, so
heat.
your first winter, how was it? How, how was
Knee
it?
ice snow is like they said this is a welcome gift. You have to
Mm-mm.
moisturize. The first year me get a whole heap of burns on my
Wow.
face. A lot of burns on my face. So as the years go by, you start to adjust. So you start to learn, you start to adjust. My hair, I come here with processed hair.
Mm-hmm.
After the winter, the whole like drop off completely.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot bald, I forgot I can something forget if I grab a cup. You can't it no process here don't work here. Just make up your mind, you have to keep it here natural. You want
Mm-hmm.
blow flattering it during the summer. If it's a good summer, you can do that. But natural hair to keep on the safe side, natural hair. Braid it, wig, sewing, whatever you want to do, is and keep it moisturized because the weather out here,
We'll suck it out.
it's deadly. Mm-hmm.
What about the
Um,
food? So we'll talk about
the
the climate in terms of it's very bipolar. This minute it raining, next minute it's snowing, and you have more winter days than you have summer days.
summer
And even
days and
sometimes the summer
summers.
in Jamaica,
Sometimes you're lucky if you get a summer. So I
man,
think, huh?
coming from Jamaica, it's just the transition was just so drastic.
It just take bad, and it kind of depressing because you're used to the sun. You're used to being able to go out freely. You're gonna have to do all this prepping and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of get depressing in that time. You feel down and all of that when you just come here and have to deal with all of that. It kind of hard sometimes. Really kind of hard in the beginning. But as I said, as time go by, you adjust. You talk to people. It start to get easier. You start to feel better about how you the transition and stuff. It was hard to get information about anything. So
Mm.
what, but because not knowing ahead are a lot of them, the circle of Jamaicans here that I got in contact with, it was like a dead end, girl. Nobody don't know anything about how to do anything.
And those
So
persons would have been living there long before you, or
years. Come here, come see them. Them living here for years. No help, no nothing to anything. What I ended up having to do was a lot of Googling and going to government organizations to ask information about stuff.
mm-hmm.
Once you tell them that you're a newcomer, they give you like a whole sheet of places and things that you can get involved in and all of that once you get in contact with them. So if I'm expecting that you're going to get this big, everybody different. Some get a crowd, some don't. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, I can't say I get a support from the Jamaican circle here. I did everything and research everything is a good thing. Canadians, not very friendly either. Not friendly at all. Some of them, it makes no sense to ask any information about anything from them. They're very impersonal. And culture-wise, we have a thing. You walk into work, it's a good morning, a good evening. It's
Mm-hmm.
that courtesy, it's that politeness. Girl, you'll never get that. They'll walk a little straight in the eye early in the morning and walk past you. Rides on the outside if it's a good weather or a good summer. Um, yeah, food food tastes different. When I just came, barely eat. Everything I cook, buy them. Something something wrong. The meats tasted different. The Amar took a while to eat. He didn't eat much because of the same issues that he was having. He's a mac and
Mm-hmm.
cheese man, and the mac and cheese didn't taste the same to him. So I had to be trying different brands to get something as close to the taste of
Mm-hmm.
how ours tastes. And it's still craft, which is what I find very interesting. It's still craft mac and cheese, but yet still it has a different taste to it. But yeah. Um yeah, and food for us, it's tricky to get where I am and get it fresh and get it regular because it's a stampede to get it. Because if you know that the supply comes in on X days,
Mm-hmm.
girl, if you ever make that day pass, you're going to be getting some battered ones or none at all. You'll go weeks probably
Mm-hmm.
before you get a piece of things. So you get used to food. You're not getting anything fresh. Not like when you in Jamaica and go to the market and you can get everything fresh. You're not getting everything fresh. You're getting stuff in the fridge that is frozen. So are sitting in the fridge for how long? So you want the same way. So it's not
Man.
it doesn't taste the same as it would. What I find though is like, all right, For pumpkins, if you want Jamaican pumpkins, you have to go to the African stores.
Okay.
People would use squash,
Mm-hmm.
like what the regular people here would use, and do the soup. But I don't like it because we boil our pumpkin and we eat it with the food and whatever. So I
Mm-hmm.
want the Jamaican pumpkin, and it's softer. The squash is a lot firmer. It doesn't have the taste. It's just not pleasant to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll buy the Jamaican pumpkin. I'll go to the African stores and I'll buy the Jamaican pumpkin. A lot of the food stuff, the bananas and that kind of stuff, I think they have it fresher. Don't know how or why, but they seem to have it a lot more fresher than when you go to an actual Jamaican supply store to get it from them. You can get
Yeah.
fresh for meat kind, oxtails and that kind of stuff. I go to the
Right.
Indian stores to get those.
Whoa.
You get those fresh. Hmm.
So we talk about people, we talk about food, we talk about climate. This is
Pardon.
about culture. Um, the juicy part, no. So a lot of people make it seem as if Canada is you know, the safe haven. As it relates to living in Jamaica and living in Canada, based on what persons would have been saying to you and you know living here, what are the real truths? What is it that I know you mentioned some of them earlier, but we want to zero in on some of these things. What are the things that people did not say to you that you ended up finding out? Would that be how easy was it to get a job? Is it true that your Jamaican qualification doesn't stand? You have to go to Canadian school in order to get a job. Tell me a little bit about that part.
Um, all right. For the job part, you would end up having to go back to school for the job part. Why? Because of course, if you're in accounting, it will be different. You have to learn about their financial
Mm-hmm.
laws and all of that. If it is
Mm-hmm.
business, the business part of it, in terms of how we operate in Jamaica and how they operate, you're gonna have a bit different. So you need to still learn that part. If it's
Mm-hmm.
nursing, there are methods of doing stuff versus what I've heard about how Jamaica does certain stuff. There are differences. So it would force you to have to go back to school. You would still
Mm-hmm.
have to go back to school. If it's just like general stuff, maybe administration and that kind of thing, I don't think you would necessarily have to go back. The principles remain the same in terms of filing and all of that I've seen and that I've done. So
Mm-hmm.
it really doesn't make it different. But what it does is, I guess, the industries are different, so you
Mm-hmm.
are forced to go back to school depending on the industry that you're going in. Recognition, the processes that they're going to carry your degree through, and you sit down waiting on it to be passed by them, and then they tell you what the upgrades are.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, the time you're going to do that, you just find a diploma course
Mm-hmm.
and do it and call it a day. And whatever they come out with at the end of the day, you can pick up from there. But
Are there for school, are there any you're now living there, so you're you could call that now. Hmm.
permanent resident,
You're a permanent resident, so you may get some sort of benefit, right?
yeah,
So
you
you're
do.
in a new country, you have left your job in Jamaica, you're jobless. Is there any benefit in terms of grants that you'd get to now go back to school in order to be able to try and get a job?
Definitely. And it's the good part about it, it's not as tedious as it is to get a student loan in Jamaica. It is far easier. Everything is done online. Like I said, Canadian government don't like people in the face. So everything is done online. They communicate with you through emails, you
Mm-hmm.
reply, you fill out whatever you need to be filled out, and the process is faster, easier, and everybody not in your business. You don't need a guarantor, you don't need anybody to do anything for you. You fill out your
Mm-hmm.
papers, turn them in, and you get your thing done on your own.
Okay,
Far
great.
simpler. So to say that you can afford to go to school as a permanent resident, it's It's just an excuse because they have everything there for you to do. You can take you get a grant and a loan. You can choose to take the grant only so that you don't have a payment to make after you're
Right.
done school. Or you can take the whole thing and cover for expense because you're going to school, you're gonna have expenses too, right? So you cover expenses for yourself if you take the whole thing. And
Wow.
yeah, the payment processes are reasonable. The payments of sorry afterwards are reasonable. They're reasonable if you call them and let them know, okay, you're not at that scale yet, but you can afford to do this. They're very flexible
Okay, so
in
they
all of that.
create a payment option based on your status, your situation,
Right.
pretty much. What
Okay.
about, all right, so you've gotten the student loan or the grant, and you've completed your studies, and you are now working. Um, no, before you start to work, how easy it is. When you look at what happens in Jamaica, we know you used to live in Jamaica. When you do your student loan, when you do your school, you finish your diploma or your degree, and you're now waiting for a job. Sometimes it's years before you can actually fall into a job. How easy was it for you to get a job in Canada after you've completed your studies?
After I completed, well, with healthcare, jobs are always there. So I basically got it right after school, right out of school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I've heard persons saying that they get it like even during your work experience because the schools send you on work experience.
Okay.
You do in-office internships and that kind of stuff. So that's how a lot of persons have transitioned from school into their jobs. So
So the
usually
curriculum is built like that
it's
for you to
built
do
like that
internship.
naturally.
Okay.
Naturally, their curriculums are built like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you usually have an easy transition into a job. Some might take a few months or whatever, but it's usually not the wide gap as Jamaica. You're not
Mm-hmm.
sitting for so long
Mm-hmm.
like Jamaica. And what I like about them in terms of the whole job and school thing, it
Mm-hmm.
allows you to be able to have that flexibility that allows you to be able to do a part-time. So you either go to school in the mornings and you have a job a part-time in the evenings,
Mm-hmm.
or the vice versa. So it keeps you're able to provide for yourself, and you're not just going to school full-time and struggling for your daily needs that you require, your food and whatever else that you require. So that's one of the things that I
Mm-hmm.
really like about it. And I think you can start working as early as 14, I think. You can start
Okay.
working. And based off, I think 14-year-olds, I think it's only 4 hours alone they can work or whatever because they have to get their time for completing schoolwork and that kind of thing. Something to
Mm-hmm.
that effect. But they do allow them to get that experience in, which is good. And so
Mm-hmm.
that they can blend back into society where after high school you have a work experience, you're exposed to this, you know how to handle this. It's good. So I like that part of how they set the economy up.
You mentioned something earlier. You said if you leave out of school and going into the health system, so there are more jobs available in the health sector than any other areas.
Yeah, they're always hiring. Yeah, they're always hiring in that sense. Ooh,
So
is that
if I'm coming
is
to
that
Canada,
me?
you would just have to say, hey, Roxy, make sure that you're thinking about something along the health industry lines.
Yeah.
For it to be beneficial, I don't know. Um,
It depends on your life because I liked nursing from before. So transitioning to it wasn't an issue for me. It wasn't a deep thought for me because I liked it from previous.
okay.
Initially from high school, that was the idea to get into it after high school. It's just that life just led me down a whole new path. So I just took on to that and just ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it wasn't a hard transition or decision for me to just say, all right, I'll just go into it. But if it's not for you, they do have a lot of need for IT and accounting, anything for the business world and computer world.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a lot of need for that as well.
Okay.
So if you can do courses, what I recommend to persons is that you can do online courses from Jamaica. If you're
Mm-hmm.
in business or IT, you can do online courses from Jamaica before you come here. that prepares you even more. So what you can, you're coming in, you can even start sending out applications and watch the feedbacks that you get from them.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you know your process, you start your process and it's coming to a close soon, you do
Mm-hmm.
your online thing and stuff, you can
Mm-hmm.
start sending out stuff. So when you come here, you're transitioning into a job, you're transitioning into life, and it gives you less downtime unless you want the time to reset, which
Mm-hmm.
everybody I think transitioning into a new environment would want. Then you can, but some of them are really flexible too. So if you tell them that, oh, I'm coming there X time, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
you'd want certain time to unpack and do whatever, we can
Mm-hmm.
give you certain time. So you can talk to them. They're really flexible and you can talk to them. So I would
All right.
suggest persons to do that.
Going back to what I said earlier in terms of what persons didn't tell you. So you spoke about the whole job market, which I really liked, and going back to school that benefit. What are some of the things that you pounced upon that you never know, or that persons failed to mention, those who are living over there and they're talking about Canada and this and that and so forth. But when you got to Canada, there was a total different thing or some things that persons never really said to you.
Making it look like it's not a struggle, that it's easy. This fake image that everybody give out. That people not here poor and homeless and living on the streets, so winter.
Mm-hmm.
They're making the whole thing, throwing sprinkles on it and make it looking like it's a perfect world. It's not a perfect world. You have to strong to make it through. People born, grow here, live here how many years before you, and they're on hard times. Stop make people
Mm-hmm.
telling you that it's all that it is. No, it's not. Safety is, yes, it's minimal in terms of the risk of your child going outside and getting shot or getting kidnapped and that kind of stuff is really low for here.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, the stories I've heard for Toronto is different. For
Mm-hmm.
here, it's it's just like that, very minimal. Where I'll find a lot of stories about any form of conflict or anything like that is usually on the trains where they have the indigenous persons traveling on. They can be
Mm-hmm.
aggressive. So it's usually it's for you to if you're transitioning here, you just have to be on the look because they're into a lot of different stuff and you don't know what the trigger's gonna be. So if you're on the trains, you try to secure yourself because girl, if they attack you on the train, nobody is coming to your help. They'll sit and watch you get attacked on the train. They will not come to your help for anything. And that is something that I miss. You'll never find that in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. What about the fees in terms of how is it in terms of the rent and the bills, that sort of thing? How is it um
My
compared
ad
to out here?
my for here,
Mm-hmm.
my advice to persons when it comes on to that, you're just moving here, don't go into a house. Do not rent a house. Rent an apartment. You rent an apartment, you only pay your rent and light. You don't pay for heat, you don't pay for water.
Mm-hmm.
Your heat bill alone, when that gets added up,
Eat up your salary.
and that I from my assessment, that is where most of the problem is coming in. You transition here and everybody say, oh, going to a townhouse or rent a house is a family. No, there are parks everywhere, like literally everywhere. There are parks close to where you are. You
Mm-hmm.
rent an apartment when you just come here, you preserve money. Because you just
Mm-hmm.
come here, you're just settling in. You have a lot of other things to be dealing with and sorting out. You rent an apartment. If it is for a year, you live in an
Mm-hmm.
apartment, you take the kids out to the park and they run around in the park. You carry them back home. But do not run into a house. A house comes with a lot of maintenance and bills because you have to pay for the heat, pay for the lights, you have to pay for the water. Apartment, you pay rent, you pay for your light. And the light bill, even though you have kids, can be, for me and for us, it's like $50 for a while. That's the highest it will go, $50. And if it's like a time like when I had school and work, sorry, so I'm not in the house, it was like 30 something dollars, $40 compared to me living into a townhouse and one bill alone coming to the house at $200.
Okay.
And they don't get the other bill yet. So, and then it comes with a lot of maintenance too. You're new to the country. Why you want to go into a house where you're going to have to get up every morning and shovel snow? You're not used to the weather yet. You don't even want to walk outside just to get to that. That's a lot of maintenance. You have to maintain everything for the house. You have to shovel the snow. You have to pull out the leaves. You have to do all of that. Why would you want to transition and give yourself all of that kind of responsibility? You're living in an apartment. All of that is taken care of for you. You don't have none of that to deal with. So, and you get your used car, you don't need to go in a car dealership to get a brand new car. You get a nice, good condition new car. You might, the mechanics are not as bad as they make them seem, but yeah, it's still cheaper than paying for a brand new car out of a dealership. That's the thing. A lot of persons come and they run into the lifestyle and you're not settled. You're burning out the money that you carry from Jamaica, and you're burning out the little money that you're making that you haven't gotten your foot in yet, and you have other stuff to deal with. And some persons still have a life to maintain back in Jamaica. So you have to look at reducing certain things and not running into everything that everybody else is into when you just come here. So those are a few things that people should consider to
How is the
transition.
pay though? How is the pay? Minimum wage
All
rate.
provinces have their different minimum wages.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I think we're the highest in terms of minimum wage. I think we're $15 and change.
Per hour.
Toronto, yeah, per hour. Toronto is less than us, which is why what I found out is that a lot of persons tend to transition out here after a while because the money is different. The economy here is a lot cheaper than living in Toronto, than living in British Columbia. It's far cheaper. So you
So
can
that
find
so that's where most of the Jamaicans are. I know Toronto is really like a look at Jamaica. Outside of Toronto, which other province is really where most of the Jamaicans are residing?
here and here because we fall under Alberta. So it's between Toronto or Alberta is where everybody is juggling between. Businesses thrive a lot more in terms of they'll get a lot more out, like especially like restaurants in Toronto. They would get it here. The problem is there's no good cooks here. Let me be honest with that. No good
Nobody
restaurants
has
here. No good restaurants here, girl. So I would love if somebody come here and open up a really nice restaurant of business. But like but in back to the salary base and economy wise, it's like I said, it's a juggle between Toronto and Alberta. I found quite a few persons that have moved here from Toronto because like I said, our minimum wage is high. If I remember correctly, it's either the first highest or it's the second highest in the country. So a lot of persons transition here. Along with it being high, the economy um is low. You can get a cheap apartment that looks decent, looks a bit proper, set up and everything, and being able to save and function versus Toronto and for a small space. When I show my cousins the place, this is my second apartment, and I showing her the size of the apartment. She said, "Girl, in Toronto, you find something like that. You're looking like $3,000, and I don't pay more than $1,000 for my apartments." And I'm getting a big space and I'm getting all the same amenities and everything. My bills are low, so it allows you to be able to see your way through.
I like that. Melissa, I know from ever since, guys, Melissa is a minimalist. And for a young person, I must say that I love how she thinks. She actually calculates everything before she makes her decision. So the fact that Melissa is living where she's living, working where she's working, Melissa would have gone ahead and calculate what is best for her and her family, and also to save. I know Melissa as a saver, so I can tell you when she's looking, comparing the two, she know that, listen, hey, I have life after, I have a child that I need to prepare for. And so it's not about being flashy to say that, oh, I live here, XYZ, but it's about living and living a meaningful life. And eventually, if you reach a state where you want to move to another
Yeah.
province, then there's always that option. But for now, you're saying you can get everything um that you want where you're at now,
Where am I?
comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But apart from that, it's comparing it to other places. I really kind of prefer to be here. You have other cities that fall under the province that you can move to, like
Mm-hmm.
Calgary. Calgary gives you a balance. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing I've heard about Calgary is that they don't have much trees. So if you're asthmatic and that kind of stuff, it might be difficult for you to adjust to.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but yeah.
So if you plan to live there much longer, you need some socialization. So Mel, as we're wrapping up now, the last
Mhm.
thing is for someone who is thinking of leaving Jamaica to live in Canada. I know you would have been saying and making tips and suggestions throughout our conversations, but what are some of the key things that you'd want to tell them or they should know when preparing to leave, or if they're thinking about that transition?
If they're thinking about, like I said, be a minimalist. Don't
Mm-hmm.
jump into everything at the same time. You can research everything. All paperwork and stuff can be done on your own. You really don't need, as they always tell you, the embassy and everybody, they'll tell you all the time, you do not need a lawyer or anybody to do any paperwork for you. Their
Okay.
paperwork is straightforward. You can do it everything on your own. And if they have any discrepancies, they'll communicate with you about any discrepancies. The process is not as long as it used to be, but it's not as it used to be. So it's a lot easier now. You come, don't jump into everything everybody is in. You need time to adjust. They've been here for a while. You need time to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
So do the minimalist, do the minimalist living, apartment, try to find the cheaper supermarkets to shop in.
Mm-hmm.
Walmart sometimes is cheaper, but there are other ones that are cheaper as well. Use the cheaper supermarkets to shop in. And
Mm-hmm.
you just, once you keep your head focused for at least the first 2 years, you can see your way through. Utilize every service that they offer to you. The minute you touch down, you find Service Canada or one of those government agencies, and they'll give you all the information you need. You go to the
Mm-hmm.
rec centers, the community centers. There are a lot of benefits for newcomers that are free and accessible to you for the first 1 or 2 years.
Hold
That your
on. Did you
kids,
know that when you came, the rent
no,
centers?
no. I
All
walked
right.
around to find them. I
Okay.
walk around and ask questions about that. So you
Mm-hmm.
go to different agencies, you let them know that you're a newcomer, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll feed information to you. Don't depend on anybody giving you the information. They might give you a one and two piece, but
Mm-hmm.
every family and every person is different.
Mm-hmm.
You might need a service that they would like or love to be exposed to a service that they didn't need. So you go around and you find all of that information. Google everything, everything, and don't Google Canada. Google for the province or city that you're in. You Google
Mm-hmm.
Canada, you get a wide range. All provinces and cities operate differently. They are
Mm-hmm.
not a one rule fits all. All of them have their own laws, their own guidelines. So you Google
Mm-hmm.
for the province and city that you're in, and you'll get a whole list of places and info that you need to function effectively.
I forgot to mention, Melissa, in our discussion, most times persons are transitioning, they're going with the family, which are the spouse and the children.
Kids.
Are in terms of benefits for the children, we didn't talk about that any at all. Just in a 2 minutes, what is it like in terms of going with your child or your children over there?
There are government benefits for the kids.
Mhm.
The community centers have swims and activities for them that with as a first of a newcomer. So you have access to for a year or two for free. The
Mhm.
libraries are free and they're everywhere, like literally every block, every corner you'll find one. Parks are everywhere. So
Mhm.
there are a lot of things for kids, a whole lot. You can't run out of anything in terms of benefits for kids and
Mhm.
accessing anything for them. So they're usually fine. Please know your weather. Know the climate of where you're going to. Know the climate of where you're going to. Check on it. Your weather app must always and permanently be on your phone. You leave out, make sure that you know what you're getting into before you get there. Do not buy any winter gears from any US citizens before you enter Canada. People made that mistake, and when they landed in Canada, those things had no use. That is fall Canadian US winter stuff are fall wear for Canada, not winter wear for Canada. Please.
Whoa. I've
They
learned a
made
lot just listening to you, Melissa. Trust me. I just want to say thanks to Melissa again for sharing very detailed information. And she said when she got there, she didn't have anybody to really guide her, but now she have done her research and she was able to share with us. So if you have any questions for Melissa, don't forget to put them in the comment section. Like the video, guys, share it, and remember to subscribe. So thank you again, Melissa and Theo.
welcome.
And guys, bye until another video.
Bye.